Rory Stuart here, and I'm really pleased and I have to say honored to have someone who I feel is one of the heroes, he's one of my heroes of the music, the great composer and saxophonist Billy Harper. And, and in the Odd Meters and Changing Meters volume of the rhythm book, one of the examples that I like the most is his 9/4 piece called The Wild. So I thought it'd be interesting for you to hear Billy himself talk about how he thinks about the piece, how he composed it, and what we should know about Call of the Wild.
Well, the tune is called, the call is Wild and Peaceful Heart. Let's see, I'm trying to think of how I got to that rhythm. I think, you know, some of the times I write some music from just melodies that come to my head, or maybe from the drums, and sometimes from piano. Call of the Wild the melody was from just something from my head, I think. But I believe I was sitting at the drums at first and thought of how to get into this 9 so that it feels like straight 9, not the usual kind, not the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it feels like straight 9. So Call of the Wild and Peaceful Heart is a sort of an example, hopefully, of helping those who play get into learning how to just feel 9, you know. Yeah, straight 9.
And I remember once when I asked you about this, and it was a class that you were a guest, one of my rhythm classes,
yeah.
And you showed this groove you're working on in the drums.
Right.
So Billy won't say this, so I have to immodestly say this for him. Billy borrowed the drumsticks from the drummer and started playing this groove, and all the drummers in the class were like, you know, because it wasn't technically dazzling, it was just the feel was so heavy, it was so great, you know. And I remember you mentioned a tune from church. It had something about "Have You Got Good Religion?" And I remember you were showing like this drum groove, and then at the end of it, "Have You Got Good Religion?" And that ended up being like a 9-beat cycle.
Yeah, maybe that's the way I got into writing it. Because it's something, bang, boom, boom, have you got good religion? Boom, dang. That's 9.
Yeah, and the other thing I remember that was interesting is, you know, sometimes people, well, of course, a lot of times people feel 9 like 3 plus 3 plus 3.
Yeah.
But a lot of times 5 plus 4 or 4 plus 5. And I ask you, which way do you feel this tune? And you said 4 plus 1 plus 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to get that feeling of a straight 9. So 4, and just 1 was extra in 4. You know.
Yeah.
So I think it. Usually when people are listening, they don't think so much of 3, 3, 3.
Yeah.
Although I think somewhere in there, in the backgrounds, I might have a section that feels like that on purpose. But basically, it should feel like 9, you know, a straight 9. And it kind of opens up your mind, you know.
Yeah. And then another thing on that tune that's interesting is where you wrote the sort of the bass groove for the other the more like Latin kind of bass groove is cool.
Yeah, there's a section. So I'm thinking the more I think about it, I'm thinking that I had a lot to do with the bass line. So the bass line, even at the beginning of the song, is not the intro, but the A section is a little different from usual, and it feels like a straight 9 kind of bass line. And then when we get to another section, we have an Afro kind of section that feels more, even more rhythmic.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still, it's let's see, boom, 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 yeah. That kind of feels like a real kind of Afro Latin kind of 9.